didn't drop it. Primes or zooms? Now that is the age-old question when it comes to lenses, isn't it? Well, today we're going to tackle that question. Which is better, primes or zooms? Is there a better one? And which one is better for which situation? We're going to tackle that question here with the 50mm prime and the 17 to 50mm zoom. So here we go. What's up everybody, welcome to my channel, John Ferrer. In this channel we talk about photography, videography, creatography, and everything in between. And in this particular video we're going to tackle the age-old question, primes versus zooms when it comes to your camera lens. And for this example we're going to use the 50mm Canon F1.8 prime versus the Sigma 17 to 50mm zoom lens. Now one thing that I should mention in this video is that we're going to be using these lenses against the Canon 77D, which is a APS-C camera. It's not a full frame camera, so there will be a crop factor of 1.6. So at that focal range of 50mm equivalent to 80mm on an APS-C camera, that's going to make a focal range that's really good for portraits and street photography, but not so much vlogging and wide-angle shots. So again, in this video we're going to be using the Canon 50mm F1.8 prime lens, which is one of the cheapest prime lenses you can get of a really good quality. The link is down below to where you can get this lens on Amazon, and it's pretty much one of those standard lenses that every Canon shooter should have in their kit, or not just any Canon shooter, but any Sony shooter, any Panasonic shooter, any Nikon shooter. The Nifty 50 is definitely something that has to be part of every person's kit because it's such a versatile lens, and 50mm is such a versatile focal range. On full frame, if you're talking about APS-C, it's 80mm, but you get my drift. And the other lens in this battle is the 17 to 50mm Sigma for APS-C cameras. In my previous video I reviewed this lens, so the link will be right up here if you want to see that video of my semi-thorough review of this particular lens, the Sigma 17-50mm EX DC OS HSM. Wow, I can't believe I actually remember that. So the first thing I think I should talk about is what is a prime lens and what is a zoom lens. Now I'm not a camera expert, but I'll give you my best description of both. Basically, don't drop lenses. Basically a prime lens is a fixed focal length lens. So in this case 50mm is a fixed focal length, and you can't go further in or back out from that focal range. It just stays at 50mm. The cool thing about prime lenses is that they're usually faster, and what I mean by faster is that they have a faster aperture. In this case it's f1.8. So what that means on the aperture scale is that it's at the faster end, not the slower end. On the faster end, anything 2.8 or lower means that it'll be faster. It means that you can use a faster shutter speed and still pull in more light. What that also equates to is a thinner depth of field, so that you get that nice blurry background. You get a better blurry background compared to other lenses that are f2.8 and greater, and those are considered slower apertures. faster apertures are the lower number, 2.8 and lower. Now, zoom lenses means that you can adjust the focal length between, and in this particular lens, you can adjust it between 17mm and 50mm. So what that means is that out on the field using this lens, you can be in one spot, adjust your focal length, adjust your zoom, and get the shot that you want. Versus using a prime lens, which means that you really got to use your feet and move around and position yourself at the right spot so that you can compose the shot that you want. But the drawback of the zoom lens compared to the prime lens is that zoom lenses typically aren't as fast in aperture as the prime lenses. So if you're going for that creamy, blurry background, it might not be as prominent in the zoom lens compared to the prime lens. But it's not to say that zoom lenses can't make a shallow depth of field, but it just, the quality of the bokeh, or bokeh, whichever you pronounce it as, comes out better typically through a prime lens. Needless to say, with a zoom lens you can still get a compressed background by zooming into your subject, if it's a person or an object, by zooming into it, thus compressing the background more, making it more blurry. But background blur quality, also known as bokeh, usually comes out better on a prime lens. So what about the sharpness between the two lenses? Because that is another quality that matters a lot to photographers and the videographers who use these lenses. Well, sharpness, let's take a look at that right now and compare the two. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the raw files of the two photos taken between the two lenses, the 50mm prime and the 17-50mm zoom. And I thought there would be no better subject for our images than this cute little BB-8 toy from Star Wars. So up first in this comparison we have the 50mm prime on the left and the 17-50mm zoom on the right, and both were set at 50mm, and both photos were taken with the same manual settings at f2.8 aperture, 1/500th of a second shutter speed, and at ISO 1600. And right off the bat, you can't really tell the difference unless you really pixel peep and zoom in. So here we are zooming in, and I know we're supposed to be talking about sharpness between these two lenses, but one thing I noticed right off the bat is the bokeh. The image on the left, which is the 50mm prime, has the more blurry bokeh, and the one on the right has more clarity in its bokeh. And even though both of these images were shot with the same manual settings, it does seem like the image on the right, which is the zoom image, has a bit more clarity and a bit more sharpness, it seems. And that might not have anything to do with primes versus zooms, it might just have to do with the quality of the Sigma lens. Now if we really try to zoom into these two images and try to pixel peep, then we would see that the Sigma zoom lens on the right has just a tad bit more sharpness than the Canon prime on the left. Now in this comparison I have the same image taken with both lenses, and the manual settings are the same, except I've changed the aperture to f4, and off the bat you can see that at f4 with the same settings the images are much darker, which can be a cool thing if you're going for that kind of look in your photos. So let's zoom into the more shadowy versions of the BB-8 and pixel peep. And honestly guys, I'm not the kind of guy who would be very particular at the very minute fine details of a photograph. It's just not my style, and looking at these two images I really can't see the difference between the two. Can you? So for shits and giggles, let's zoom in even closer and focus more on the antenna on the top of the BB-8's head. Yeah, and they look the exact same. I really don't see the difference. I don't even see the difference in photo grain or anything like that. Looking at the edges, I don't see any difference. They basically look like they were taken from the same lens. And in our last comparison, we're gonna take a look at the fastest apertures of both lenses. On the left, we have the Canon Prime at f1.8 compared to the Sigma Zoom on the right at its fastest aperture f2.8, and immediately you can see the differences between the two. On the left, the Prime is much brighter at f1.8. It has a shallower depth of field, much better bokeh, compared to the one on the right, which is the Zoom at its fastest aperture f2.8. And don't get me wrong, the image on the right is also a great image. The Sigma Zoom provides great sharpness and really good contrast. But if you were to go for something like, let's say, portraits, you would probably and likely go for the image on the left, the lens on the left, that provides better bokeh, a shallower depth of field, and lets in more light. But hey, does both lenses do a great job for delivering great images? You bet your ass. Okay, so sharpness, creamy, blurry background, butteriness, or bokeh. Do these things really matter to the people who are watching your video or looking at your photograph? Not really. I mean, those things are cool and they make the aesthetic of your image better, but it really doesn't matter. What really matters is the content of whatever is in that image. If it's cool, then obviously the people that you want to get the attention from are going to pay attention to that. Is it cool content that you are sharing on the social media platform or some other type of media that you are showing off your art? But there are many other factors that involve primes versus zooms. Another one is price, and the other one is the ability to adjust the focal lengths with zooms, and the ability to get creamier background blur and shallow depth of field with primes. Those things are factors that are really focused around the artist, the creator. For the zoom, if, for example, you're traveling and you don't want to carry a bunch of primes with you, then you might want to just carry a couple of zooms that cover all of the focal ranges that you want for this job. Then that is the reason why you would choose a zoom over a prime. So the bottom line is, there is no better, there is no best. It all depends on what the job entails. That lens will be the best for that job, obviously. Just like the camera body, the lenses are just tools. They're tools to help the creator achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve. If you're a wedding photographer, then you might want to have, a zoom lens with you that covers a few focal ranges, because you might have to be at a certain distance and you can't always be at a close-up distance to your subject. So if you're a beginner photographer or videographer and you're trying to decide between primes and zooms, my suggestion to you is find a way to get both, because you never know when you'll need one or the other. It depends on the kind of job, and it depends on the kind of creation that you're trying to create with your camera. So thank you again for watching my video. I will be having more videos like this, reviewing camera gear, diving into all of the nuances of photography and videography, and I'm excited to bring you all along in this information journey known as my channel, John Ferrer. So if you like this video, then show your love and hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down button. I have thick skin, it's all good. And obviously, if you want to see more content coming from me, be sure to subscribe to my channel, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you can get notified every time I put out a new video. The more likes and comments and subscribers that I get for my videos and channel, then the more frequent videos will be uploaded to my channel. So it's all up to you guys. Hopefully you like my stuff. And anyway, I will see you in the next video. So I'll catch you later. You know, everybody does the camera. I'm not gonna be doing that anymore. This will be my new thing now. In my previous video, can't even talk. Need to go back to kindergarten so I can learn how to talk. Thinner depth of field so that you get that nice blurry background. You get a better blurry.